Good evening once again, and welcome to the Monday Review Show. So, before we came on air, Keith and I were just looking at the. See if I can freeze this for a second. We were looking at the draw for the fourth round of the FA Cup, and some interesting ones. Tottenham Hotspur will be at home to Manchester City. I'm just looking for some of the other biggies there. Fulham, another all Premier League tie, Fulham against Newcastle. What other ones have we got? Liverpool will be at home to either Norwich City or Bristol Rovers. Leeds will play Plymouth Argyle. Crystal Palace or Everton against Luton Town or Bolton Wanderers. Newport County or Eastleigh will play the winners of tonight's match, Wigan versus Man United. That would be a great draw for Eastleigh if they were to beat Newport County and then get Man United. Would be a great money spinner for them. And Sheffield United will play Brighton and Hove Albion. So those are the main cup draws for the fourth round of the FA Cup. So again, welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm delighted to be joined by Keith Hackett on the other side of the pond. And Keith, I was looking at your, by the way, I must tell you, if you'd like to make any comments on the show, please do so. There's a little thing on the bottom right-hand side of your screen there. If you'd like to make any comment or you'd like to ask a question, please do so. We go out on Facebook and on Twitter and on YouTube. So please make your comments now and we'll include them in the show. Keith, okay, all the excitement of the FA Cup there. Of course, we're looking at it from a refereeing point of view. If you were doing the nominations there, Keith, who would you have with Spurs and Man City?
I think that would be Michael Oliver.
Yeah, I was thinking that also.
I think that it's a game that is usually played in a very good spirit. I mean, obviously, I've got connections having managed and officiated in the FA Cup many years ago, Spurs Man City final. There's always that sort of no doubts that when we lead up to that game, we'll see the Ricky Villa goal because it's shown almost every year. But I think now they've got an excuse to show it yet again.
Yeah.
So I think there's some really good challenging games. Both Sheffield clubs are at home. I think it would have been difficult had Sheffield Wednesday been drawn against Liverpool. I always think of the tragedy of the Liverpool fans that were sadly killed at Hillsborough, the semi-final all those years ago. So I think it's in a way it's pleasing that that's been avoided. But hey, both Sheffield clubs are at home, so I've no doubt we'll have a Saturday and Sunday game in our city with some pretty good, hopefully some good crowd numbers.
Indeed. Wednesday struggling, aren't they, at the bottom of the championship?
They're struggling, but they've now got a new manager and everybody is talking very positively about his approach. A German who's got the team fitter, I believe, and more organised. Whether they purchase in the window is yet to be seen, but I think generally they've got high expectations that he'll get us out of the problems that they're in at the moment.
Yeah. I watched your program. Thank you for sending it to me, and your interview with Mark Saggers last night, I think it was. And my goodness, what are they doing to VAR and with VAR? They now have an S support VAR. I mean, heavens above, is that not just putting another cook in the kitchen and really spoiling the broth?
Well, I think that my observations are that I think they should bin VAR. I hated saying that because I'm a great supporter, as you know, of technology.
Sure.
But it's harming the game. It's damaging the game. There's no question that fans enjoy.
Sorry, can I just stop you there? So it's not actually VAR that's the problem.
No.
It's the people operating it.
Correct.
Well, I mean, how in heaven's name can they not get it right? And I have to say at the outset, you and I have been out there. We know what it's like to be a referee, and we would be the last to criticize any referee.
Yeah.
The refereeing, who is doing this? Is it the PGMOL or the FA or both together?
Oh no, the management of referees at the Premier League level and the Football League level is the responsibility of the Professional Game Match Officials Limited. Very clearly, I was in charge of those referees. Obviously, when it comes to the FA Cup, then the referees committee at the FA make the appointments, not the PGMOL. I think that's still the same today. No, I get frustrated by the fact that basic refereeing appears to be out of the window, and referees that we expect to make simple decisions generally are over-relying on the VAR. So you're quite right to point out it's not the VAR system itself, although I would mention, and as I've mentioned before, I do think that it should have the semi-automated offside system. And I do think that the authorities, and perhaps Howard Webb in particular now, needs to grip and get some consistency in terms of what is clear and obvious as an error and interference. So it's a mix that's not working. That is, I think referees who are becoming hesitant in their decision-making. We know that if the VAR intervenes, they're going to the screen and automatically accepting the VAR's decision. And it really was based on the Crystal Palace Everton game, where we saw a challenge which was reckless, in my opinion. It was a yellow card challenge. The referee, in a good position, judged it as an okay challenge. He was happy. He didn't even give a free kick. So I've gone, wow, I'm surprised. Then what we got was the VAR interference. And we knew straight away then that the referee was going to go across to the screen and be shown slow motion replays which exaggerate the problem.
It does.
And we've also, of course, got a player who's believing that he's been half murdered. That doesn't help the scenario. But for me, I think that referees, I know it should be aware of the law and understand the practice of applying the law. And if they are going to say that is a red card, I want to see the element of brutality in that challenge to actually confirm that the red card issued was a satisfactory decision. And I think that there was, in my opinion, sufficient element of doubt in that challenge that left me with a conclusion that I think it was yellow and not red. But of course, the problem is the referee is not allowed to go back and yellow card because VAR is not allowed to intervene on a yellow card.
Yeah. Mm.
And this is where I think it's that knowledge that you've got a guy. Well, look, there were 3 referees on this match.
Yeah.
You know, we had the
that's what I was saying earlier. No, there are too many cooks spoil the broth. There are too many cooks in the kitchen. There are too many referees.
I think we've got a situation where we want the right outcome, and we want the outcome to be accurate and to be justified in law. And I think that this was a challenge that the referee judged. It wasn't a clear and obvious error. It was an obvious error not giving a yellow card, but the VAR protocol does not allow the interference. So I think that when we look at challenges like this, and we can be at odds as referees, but I think that what is clear and obvious is clear and obvious, and that's not clear and obvious. There's
Now,
an
Keith,
element.
just on that issue of clear and obvious,
Yeah.
how is that defined, and who decides it's a clear and obvious error?
Well, the VAR.
Right. So,
Not the
and
referee.
then ultimately, at the end of the day, Law 5 clearly states, and I'm paraphrasing, the referee's decision is final. So
Yeah.
why are the referees not making their own mind up, as they do in rugby? My on-field decision is a try or a red card or whatever. Have a look. Why don't they do something like that? And why is it always so almost predictable that when the referee goes to look at the camera, he will go with what the VAR recommends instead of saying, no, I've looked at the camera, I've seen the incident. As far as I'm concerned, my first decision was correct. Why don't they have the guts and the backbone to make the decision like they used to before VAR was ever invented? Like we used to, you and I, on a Sunday morning,
I mean,
in the park with no linesman.
You know, one of the reasons I said bin the VAR was having watched some FA Cup games this weekend with one or two controversial incidents with no VAR in operation.
That was going to be my next line. Yeah.
Thoroughly enjoyed the game.
Mm.
And what we've got in England, we've got an overindulgence in the VAR operation. And we've got, I don't like using the word weak refereeing, but I do think, you know, in the leadership that comes from the PGMOL, they've got to say to that referee, if you believe that the decision that you've given on field is one that you stand by, then stand by it. But that takes a bit more courage. It's easy, isn't it, to go into a room and say, well, I thought it was okay. The referee didn't. And the VAR didn't. So I'm going to go with the VAR because he's had time to look at the screen a dozen times. It's just overcomplicated. It's not what I see as how the VAR should come in. You know, what's clear and obvious is in my opinion, is something that hits you on the end of the nose and gives you a black eye. That's clear and obvious. You've not ducked the punch. You've taken it. And I think that's the analogy that I would use in VAR. But see, what we've got now is we've got effectively 3 match officials at Stockley Park, and we've got 4 match officials on field. So we've got 7. You know, we've got 7 officials making the wrong decision. You know, so the reason I'm saying at the moment is bin the VAR is because it's not working. And you and I, week in, week out, can look at an incident and not justify the outcome of that decision.
Does the referee, or as the Americans call it, the center ref?
Yeah.
But anyway, there's only one referee. The rest are assistants.
Yeah.
Does the referee have any communication or dialogue with his assistants to ask them, did you see anything? Did I miss something? Is he in communication with them, or is he only in communication with Stockley Park?
No, he's in communication with them.
So presumably then they throw in their sixpence worth.
Well, I'm not so sure they do. I'm sure that if, you know, I can think of one assistant referee, Darren Camp.
Yeah. Very well respected, long time.
Would be saying something. You know, I've worked with him. I know him. He's an outstanding match official.
Absolutely.
And he'll never shirk a decision, ever. So where Darren is operating, I know that wouldn't happen. But I think what we've had with VAR is rather than a coming together of the match officials in a team environment.
Yeah.
In a team environment where you enhance. Look, Howard Webb and Mike Malarkey and Darren Cann, I appointed them week in, week out to the top games, and they became almost as one. Trust at a hugely high level, confidence, communication, honest chat during the game, all those things that you want in a team of match officials. I think at the moment VAR is chaotic. I think the communication is chaotic. I think there are, one has a published list of VAR operators, but one suspects there's other people as well putting the two penneth in. As they're looking at the screen, on comes another guy that's, he's the coffee guy, and he puts his two penneth in. We've already heard in one clip that Howard exposed in his show, the actual controller, if you like, the guy who does the monitor, to tell it, if you like, the software system and all that goes with it, he started making a call. So, he was having his. If you remember, there was that incident involving Darren England where there was this confusion about an incident that took place, and they decided not to interfere because they said the game's restart and away we go.
That was the Liverpool goal, was it?
Yeah, and in that situation, the systems operator, the guy who works the machinery for the match, VAR operators, he had his two penneth. It was like, why don't we stop the game? So, look.
But then ultimately, though, Keith, I mean, the referee has the final say. And I'm sure there's people out there screaming and saying, but exactly what I'm saying. And as you well know, the referee has the final say, regardless of what all the other 6 or 7 guys, how many, he is the one who has the final say. Here's a question. What about, or is it ever going to be likely that, like rugby, they would put the incident up on the big screen? Alternatively, that the referee and the 2 assistants and maybe even the 4th official could get together and have a heads down, as the players do, not literally, of course, but get around and make a joint decision with the referee having the final say? Or is that going to step on somebody's toes at the FA or whoever brought in VAR and so on? Because there were, as you say, there were cup games played without VAR. And even in the League Cup games, where it's only used in the semi-finals, there were games played without VAR, and people accepted the referee's decision.
I think there was an interesting decision today that I read, that the Football League are not going to use VAR in the semi-finals. So, for me, I think that's
the League Cup, you mean?
Pardon?
In the Football League?
In the Football League Cup, the League Cup competition.
The Carabao Cup.
Yep, they're not going to use VAR in the semi-finals. Now, I'll wait for confirmation of that, but I think that's a reflection of the lack of trust that they have in how the system is operating. But look, we can argue forever and a day. The decision is for the referee to make in a game. He's the guy that makes the calls.
Yeah.
But sadly, what VAR has done is created a group of lazy referees who are prepared to capitulate to the view of the VAR operators. Why do we need an SVAR? Why do we need another Premier League or top referee joining another referee to advise on whether a red card, a goal, or whatever within the protocols of VAR should be allowed? I mean, I don't get it. I think that have they got that much money they don't know what to do with it? It's a little bit like Well, it's too many cooks. I mean, at the end of the day, we're not getting the level of consistency that we want, and all it's doing is adding to the delay in making the decision.
Yeah.
And so I'm saying, look, bin it. I know that they won't, and I'm putting my 2 pence in because I think the impact of VAR is one of the contributing factors to the demise of the quality of refereeing at the Premier League level. I mean, I watched John Brooks this weekend.
Yeah,
and I thought it was interesting because he looked more relaxed.
Yeah.
It's
I thought he had
almost
a good
like,
game, actually. I thought he had a good game, and he didn't put up any diving.
Look, he's got around the play. This is, the fact is that both sets of teams wanted to play the game, and they got on with it. There was less ducking and diving that we normally see.
It was a good old-fashioned cup tie, yeah.
But it was good. And I'm thinking to myself, and then I watched a game where there was no VAR, a couple of games, in fact, and I'm thinking the game was completely different. The goal was scored, and I'm suddenly waiting for the VAR to come in, and there's no VAR.
Yeah.
And
I wonder,
everybody's up at the halfway line, ready to go.
Well, you remember the England-West Germany goal in the 2010 World Cup where the ball was well over the line. And I think there was an incident also one time at Man United with Alex Stepney where the ball was over the line and he took it out again. So, that's, of course, why we have referees. Because players will not be honest and fair. There's no fair play.
Well, the difference here, and because people think that when I say we want to get rid of VAR, remember that we're operating 2 systems here in the Premier League. We have VAR, but we also have goal line technology. So when I say bin VAR until you get it right, goal line technology stays because it's a separate system. It's a system that I helped introduce along with people like Mike Foster, who's just retired from the role of chairman of PGMOL and was formerly the general secretary and the director of the Premier League, an outstanding individual, outstanding administrator. And I wish him a happy retirement. But in reality, goal line technology, we got the criteria right. We got the systems working 100%. It's there. VAR, I'm sure can work the same or relatively the same, but there needs to be an awful lot of training and a lot of change.
There's a comment here from, I hope I get the name right, Mutiabo A. Bartlett. I'm not sure where Mutiabo is from. He said poor underperformance by on-field and VAR in the UK. So I'm guessing that he's not from the UK. Maybe you tell us where you are from, Mutiabo, and I hope I'm pronouncing your... and it is correct, Correct. But is it that the referees just have lost their guts, lost their backbone to make that decision for fear of a backlash?
Well, I think that the real problem is that, look, I've said it before, we've had a long decline in the standard of refereeing because of poor leadership and a poor management structure. The Premier League, in fairness, the PGMOL have changed the management structure at the higher level, the top level, but the middle management, people like John Moss, Martin Atkinson, and others, have not delivered for Mike Riley. They're not going to deliver for Howard Webb. They're in a comfortable position.
But then why does he keep them? Can he not get rid of them?
Well, I mean...
Because at the end of the day, Keith, these guys, by their performances and by their decisions, everything will rest at the door of Howard Webb.
Well, I mean...
They are his subordinates.
I know Howard really well. And think he's a competent individual who managed games very effectively. What he's got to do is show a bit of backbone here. He's got to offload. And there's no question that he's inherited a poor middle management, a poor set of coaches. They're all tick boxes. There's a lot of, if you like, training and education quality gone out the window. And they've lost a lot of quality coaches. And I think unless he starts to make changes, the decline will continue. I'm amazed at that and saddened by the fact that there's a lot of people on social media who, by the way, are ex-referees at a fairly high level, some of them, saying, and their headline is, the decline continues.
Yeah,
So
it's on a
they've
slippery
seen
slope.
it.
But in fairness to them, and maybe as a little bit of criticism to Howard, Howard came in around this time last year, midway
Yeah.
through the season. So, and Mike Riley was still there until the end of the season. So Howard had a 6 month getting to know things, as it were. Could he not have made all those decisions then? I'm going to keep this guy. I'm not keeping that guy. I'm not keeping him. I'm getting rid of him. Could he not have done all of that? And then he wouldn't have these problems. Or was he hamstrung?
Well, I don't know whether it's handcuffed or not. I mean, first of all, when I was offered the job, I said it's on the proviso of, because when you take that role, that's the time when you have the optimum power.
Yeah, and you bring in your own team. Yeah.
So I went in there and said, right, I'm going to write a business plan. And that business plan was in detail. And the restructuring of the organization. But it then said the aim was to create a cadre of world-class match officials. That was it. That was the aim. And the aim then has to focus on, can you make them fitter? Can you make them more mobile? Can you get uniformity of law interpretation? I used to occasionally phone the IFAB and say, I'm seeking clarification on the law interpretation in this particular law, so that we were interpreting the law as effectively as we could. And if we had any doubt, then we'd rectify it. But look, I left it with what I consider to be a cadre of world-class referees. I think we've probably got a couple. I think we've got one or two referees that are doing much better because they're getting games. But I think we've got a lot of dross. And I think we've got some young referees coming through. I thought Sam Allison, he's only done one game, but he did it at Sheffield United and had a very good game. Where's his next game, please, in the Premier League? And in fairness, Simon Barrett has had about 5 or 6 games now, maybe more. He's come on and impressed. Low key, gets on with the job, applies the law. And so there are some in that group that you suddenly think, I've not seen any levels of improvement.
Yeah.
And they're stagnating. And in business, if you stagnate, you regress and you decline.
And I noticed John Brooks. How long is he there? He's not that long there?
No, he's not that long there.
And he's already wearing a FIFA badge. I mean...
Well, yeah, I mean, look, there are referees there at the championship level. But look, what Howard has done is, they've SG1, SG2 is the referees for the championship, of which there is a pool that they're going to succeed in the Premier League. If they don't, I used to have a 2-year moratorium on that. They had to get that level within 2 years. If they didn't, they were replaced. But what they've done now is they've created a small group of referees outside those SG1, SG2, and saying, right, we're gonna work closer with these, and these are the referees that's going to go to the top level. So Sam Allison and Rebecca Welsh came from that group on to referee a Premier League game. So it's all a bit, if I'm an SG2 referee and I'm not getting a bite of being able to referee at the Premier League level, I think I'd be slightly annoyed. But that comment is right. I think, sadly, there has been a decline in standards. Howard's got to work hard at rectifying it. I'm sure behind the scenes he's trying to do that. I don't know if his hands are handcuffed, to be honest. But if he took the job, coming back from America to do this job, at the moment, I don't see any massive improvement in the standard of officiating.
If anything, it's actually gotten worse, I think, Keith.
Yeah, I think, and that saddens me, because I get on really well with Howard. But I mean, I've not spoken to him for about a year, so I've not influenced anything. But maybe if he sat across the table and had a cup of coffee, I'd give him some own truths. But if he's not listened to our show or listened to what I've written in the Telegraph, then he's a bit of a blind man.
Well, he's welcome to come on at any time. He's welcome to come on with you and me, and we can talk about things. I'm not sure he will, but he's more than welcome to join us.
Yeah.
Once again, Keith, much appreciated. Thank you very, very much. And thank all of you out there for watching and making comments. And we'll do it all again next Monday, same time, 8 o'clock. Till then, goodbye and God bless. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.